the actual amount of people who are Russian in Lithuania is fairly small, actually probably the smallest of any previous Soviet Socialist republic. But you'll probably feel it more as a missionary because of those that are Russian or Russian speakers. They live in Vilnius or Klaipėda or even Šiauliai. So they live in the places that you'll be living. Not most. What if you drive out into the countryside? Most people don't speak Russian, nor is it taught there anymore. A member explained how some people from the countryside came for some competition or whatever, and Russian was something very foreign or strange to them, or it was very strange that to her that they weren't able to get along a little bit better. I mean, sorry, not get along as in, but get by, understanding maybe a few things in Russian or whatever. But as far as signs or whatever, there are very, very, very few things in Russian. Maybe one or two signs in the bus or train station to help tourists, but that might be due to some regulation. But also, for example, I know in Latvia, and it was very obvious there actually, that for advertisement you can't have Cyrillic text larger than Roman text on advertisement. So I imagine Lithuania has similar laws. As far as cultural influence, it was fairly absent in Kaunas because there are very few Russians there. And Kaunas kind of feels like the Texas of Lithuania, kind of with their patriotism and patriotism for Lithuania, and kind of almost more, I don't know how to describe that, but they're pretty patriotic there. As far as other Russian influences in the church, so there's two units. There's the Russian unit, the Russian branch, and the Lithuanian branch. And I guess I expected to see more conflict or whatever between them, based on things that I heard from a missionary who had served in all of the different countries. Except for he said he enjoyed serving in Vilnius the best. There were sometimes joint activities. For example, joint activities. Some were officially joint activities, some were not. But for example, a Lithuanian married a Russian, not a Russian from Lithuania, but one from somewhere near Vladivostok. And there were Russian members there and Lithuanian-speaking members, even though that couple attended the Lithuanian-speaking branch. I think it was really fun in Vilnius Vilnius and Klaipėda. I served in Klaipėda for a while where there were Russian-speaking missionaries and a while where there were not. And in Vilnius, there are always Russian-speaking missionaries. But it's interesting because you work in the same areas and sometimes just run into them, or oftentimes we would use them in lessons, or ask them to take an appointment, or go back and forth. We interacted a lot more than I expected. Oftentimes, we would have a Russian member in a lesson. Sometimes the Russian member didn't even speak very well in Lithuanian. That only happened once, where the Russian member would say something in Russian and we'd just sit there, kind of hoping that whatever seemed to be on topic, because it seemed to be on topic when we got back into Lithuanian. But it was really interesting to see how they cooperated, even though there is definitely that cultural tension. For the 20th anniversary, the Russian branch and the Lithuanian branch did a pantomime, I guess, where they kind of took their different cultural aspects and acted them out. So like the Lithuanian members and maybe a missionary or two or something were in Lithuanian traditional dress, and they were like harvesting fields or something, or pretending to pull water from a well or something, some very agricultural type things. And then the Russians came in and they did their kind of thing. I even tried to do some like Russian dancing, who knows? But they were dressed in kind of traditional Russian dress. But at the end of the pantomime, actually, they all were sitting down eating together. I thought that was a really cool symbol to see develop. But at the end, they also emphasized that we're all equal, equal in the gospel and equal as far as our salvation. We all need to come to Christ. So that was a really interesting pantomime that the two branches put on together, and I thought was really symbolic, really interesting, and really beautiful.